Hello everyone, it's Eddie, and today we're back for Confidential. We're going to talk about Stranger Things and its very big amount of homophobia. Obviously, we are going to talk about Byler. Before going into this, I have to mention, as someone who has the possibility of talking about Stranger Things, I do not agree with anything that the cast is doing, which is the silence that is coming with the situation of Palestine. I think it needs to be talked about regarding Stranger Things because its cast are known to be Zionists. It's a crime against humanity, so please, if you ever can, and if you see this video, and if you can, donate to Palestinians' family who needs the money to be able to live Palestine. Even with the ceasefire, it doesn't mean that everything is done and that nothing bad will come after. It is already bad. They continue bombing, and so yeah, let's not forget about the situation. My first point is the ongoing phenomenon of homophobia in Stranger Things. Stranger Things, we all know, is a show about outcasts, about marginalized people, minorities, people who are in our life, in our world, not welcomed. And one thing that I find funny is in season 1, there's one obvious character, no, not even one, but two very obvious homophobic character. And when they show this to you, it was never meant to be an example. This is like a triangle. On top of it, there is very bad act, murder because someone is gay, for example, transphobia that leads to murder. Those are the crimes on top of the triangle. And then there's the bottom of the triangle, which is the homophobic rhetoric that a lot of people uses, that is going against queer people in general or are harmful to queer people in general. The first thing I want to mention is that Will is canonically in love with Mike. Since season 1, they mentioned his father being homophobic to him, the bullies being homophobic to him, and this question by Hopper of, is he? And then Joey saying, this is not the question. Now, we settled that in Stranger Things, there is homophobia, and the message of homophobia is not presented as good, it's presented as bad, something you should not do. With the ongoing season, more and more homophobia platters up, people are more and more homophobic as we go, which is the state of the actual world, by the way. First of all, there is this big denial that Will is not gay. Of course, many people didn't really grasp onto it because they don't have a queer perspective on things, etc. But it's also because of homophobia. And this is an homophobic rhetoric. The idea that queer people cannot exist in the media unless stated so explicitly in the show of a character saying, I'm gay. Robin said that she was a lesbian, and yet, after her coming out, people still kept this feeling that Robin and Steve were still a possibility and still a couple to explore, when it was stated very explicitly that it was not a possibility. This is another idea of homophobic rhetoric of people not being able to recognize that what they're doing is homophobic. For them, there's no problem in erasing Robin's sexuality. It's just for fun. But it's not for fun, because erasing people's sexuality, making it seems like it's not normal or that it's not possible to happen in real life and they should be with a guy anyway, is a very, very big homophobic rhetoric. And it's not even a rhetoric, it's just homophobia. They often call Will a crybaby, sensitive, weak. All of those things are what people consider gay people to be today in our real life. People call queer people like that. We crybaby, sensitive, you complain about nothing, you actually can have a life, stop complaining about homophobia, it doesn't exist, blah 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 blah. This rhetoric that being queer means that you're sensitive, a crybaby, and weak is very prominent today. It's still well and still here. And Will is the victim of that because we see him. He is brave. That guy is very brave. He only complained at least like 2 times in the show, and it was all about his friends not treating him well. He never complained about his bullying. He never complained about not being normal. He never complained about being kidnapped, about being possessed. He didn't complain about anything. He took it all with silence and just wanted his friends to be with him. This idea that Will cannot complain, that Will cannot say anything to Mike, that saying something is him being a crybaby and that he should grow up, is going exactly against the idea of the show. The show is here to tell you that you can be and do what you want, even as an outcast. That you like your nerdy game, play your nerdy game, no matter your age, no matter what you do, it doesn't matter. Another point, another rhetoric, another part of homophobia in the show is people believing that they suddenly made Will gay. It's not the case. It is not the case. This idea that just because you see it now, it only happens now, is not true. And it's only because people are not open-minded. They're closed-minded. They don't see a variety of options. They only see one option, which is being normal and being straight. And this is why they struggle with Will, because Will is the opposite of their normalcy, of their norms, and what they think a guy should be. There's this idea that Mike cannot be gay because he has 11 and he has a girlfriend, without even taking into consideration that Mike could just have not known or is in denial. I have to remind a lot of people that this is the 80s. For a lot of people, being gay is not a possibility, especially in a family like Mike's, which is a white family, typically conforming of the 80s in a small town in Indiana. Now, is Mike gay? Is Mike not gay? It is not confirmed. We will only know in season 5. But I have to say that no matter what, a person can date people even if they are gay. Like, it is a very common experience for queer people to date the opposite gender before realizing that they don't like this gender. So I'm going to move on with this and the characters to talk directly about the homophobia going on with people and their imagination of the characters and their reaction to people believing that Byler is canon. First of all, we have this very violent homophobia going on of directly jumping into sexual acts or threatening of sexual acts or telling someone to have this sexual act, like taking it from the butt or things like that. That's how they view queer. They're just people who are sodomites and that is it. They're just people who are not normal, who not take it the right way. And this violent way of talking to people when they talk about Byler is directly homophobic. Like, this is not rhetoric. This is just homophobia as it speak. Directly threatening someone with a sexual act is horrendous, horrific, and disgusting. But it is happening. It is real, and people react like that to people liking Byler. But there's this awful community of people that always says that Bylers are stupid, that it's never going to happen, and that not everything is queer, and that the real queer representation is Will not having his happy ending with Mike, but him realizing that he is alone and rejected by Mike, and this is what is going to make him defeat Vecna. This idea, first of all, that Will's gonna get strength by being rejected is ridiculous. But his love for Mike is very deep, as you can see in the van scene, and I don't even have to talk about that. So no, he's not gonna be happy when he's going to be found out and rejected. Because this is what he doesn't want. He never tried to gain Mike. He never tried to do anything to be able to go out with Mike. And instead, he laid back down to help Mike and Hal to win their relationship, to make them go back together and work together, while sacrificing himself. Will has never tried to win Mike. He always tried to hide from Mike this part of him and from everyone else. And he took a risk in the violent scene because he saw that Mike needed it. And this idea, after being bullied all of his life by his father, his bullies and all of that, that Mike finding out that he's gay and rejecting him is gonna give him strength is ridiculous. Because if it does happen like that, it will be crushed to death. When I say to death, it's going to be desperate, sad, and there's nothing that's gonna make him come back from this. And I'm not laughing. I'm not joking with you. I think everyone who's not queer here should look a bit on how crushed queer people are when their feelings are not reciprocated after years and years and years of longing and wishing for it to happen, or even not wishing for it to happen when they don't even believe it in the first place. There's no empathy for queer people, and this is my point. There's no empathy. No one is trying to have any kind views on Will because he is gay. Mainly because of that. Because, like, there's not much to dislike about him. Really not. He does everything for his sister, everything for his friends. I don't see what is there to dislike, unfortunately. My last point on this, and this blood and homophobia in the Stranger Things journal audience and people in general, is that they want him to be paired with anyone but the guy he is in love with. And I think it's incredible, because there's even this case of people thinking that Vecna has feelings for Will, or that after taking Will is gonna be gay. Like, this is not a disease, but this is genuinely disgusting, because Vecna is a monster that is pursuing Will to help him kill people. So why would you want him to be having any romantic connection with Will? This is ridiculous and horrible. Not only that, but this idea that Will has to get just a random boyfriend that we never saw anyway, while he is the main character of the story. Will is the main character of the story. He is the main character. So I'm repeating myself. He is the main character of the story. He's been in love with one guy since the beginning. And you want him to have a random boyfriend at the end to satisfy queer people. Just to say, here, queer. Queers, take it. Take that boyfriend and go along with it. This is why they want him to have a random boyfriend at the end and not Mike. This is not because they think it would be good for Will. It's because they do think that we will be happy with just Will having a boyfriend. Like, we at least acknowledge that Will is gay, and because of that, we are going to make him have a boyfriend. Are you happy now? No one will be happy about that, because this idea that queer people has to suffer, and then just go along with what they're given is rude and homophobic is. Because why would you want your main character to not have a happy ending? That is weird. We are going to go into the idea that Byler is going to happen. I'm just going to go into the narrative and how the show was written, and Will being the main character, more than little details, more than Finn's way of acting. I'm really just going to talk about the show as a whole and how it wouldn't make sense for Will not to have his happy ending with Mike, and why I also believe Mike is queer and has internalized homophobia. I already said that in the beginning of the video, that there's a lot of subplot about queerness, about Will being queer and all this belying relating to queer people. So it goes without saying that there's two queer characters that are explicitly queer, a lesbian and a gay one. and the fact that they straight baited once already with Robin and Steve. Yes, Robin and Steve were made to straight bait people. They at first made it seem like they could be in a relationship, but then they were like, psych, actually no, she's a lesbian and she's not gonna end up with Steve. If you didn't understand that they made that purposely in season 3, it's very funny, because season 3's plot is all about conforming, trying to stay inside the norm, and the two characters that breaks that completely is Will, who confronts Mike and Lucas about not playing, but especially Mike saying that he's destroying the party, etc. And then this explicitly queer scene, and then Robin's coming out. Those are the two characters in season 3 that very much breaks completely the stereotype of this show, that completely destroy the norm that is happening in season 3. Season 3 is the most liked because it's the season where they conform the most. They don't play D&D, there's not a lot of relations to D&D, no. It's where they are the most normal, and that's why people like it the best, in my opinion. Now, let's go into the narrative. Let's talk a bit about romance in Stranger Things.
It's everywhere.
There's romance everywhere, no matter the character. There's only a few characters that are not related to romance, which is Erica, Murray, and I think that's it. I think that's it. Billy was related to romance because there is this current plot, and you also know that he also has is a woman. Well, he enjoys women. That's what I'm going to say. I'm talking about Billy and Side's character first because I think it's funny that even them have such lot of romance, like Argyle, for example, with Eden. Yeah, the only two characters that are not connected to romance is Erica and Murray. Well, we'll see what happens in season 5. Maybe they're going to get their bit of romance in season 5. I don't know. Maybe. There's this possibility anyway. But every other characters are related to romance. Joyce had Bob and Hopper. Nancy, Jonathan, and Steve. Steve, he has this whole arc with Robin and Nancy, which is unresolved for now. But yeah, his character is very different from others because he's based as a romantic partner first, and then enters Stranger Things to be a official character of some sort. But I don't know if you follow me with what I'm trying to say. Mike, obviously, with 11, and maybe Will. Lucas and Max, who has this very, very profound relationship. Dustin had Max and Susie. What is there also? Robin, of course, Robin with Vicky, and Vicky with Robin. I think I quite said everyone else, and then Will is the only one who did not live any romance. All I am saying is the only one who didn't live romance because it's because Robin could be entering this as a person who never lived romance, but the ending of season 4 is explicitly here to show you that Vicky is reciprocating her feelings. That's why I'm not making her enter this, because Vicky was made. She was made to break up with her boyfriend, and she acted like Robin of never being able to shut her mouth, which is a very explicit way of showing that she's nervous around Robin and that Robin and her like each other mutually. And with this shot of Steve being happy about it. We'll go into Will. Will is the main character who has never stopped suffering because of the Upside Down, but also because of being queer. And he's I think the only character that we barely saw happy in all seasons. Like, yes, there's these small bits, but is not happy because in season 4 he's suffering from the fact that he's sacrificed himself for Mike. In season 3 he's suffering because he's let down by his friends. In season 2 he's suffering because he's possessed and he's used as a tool to kill people. And season 1 he was kidnapped. Him suffering all this time through season 1 to season 4 was all of a build-up for season 5 and Vecna. So yeah, is the main character, suffered a lot, and explicitly about queerness, about him being queer. He suffered a lot by Mike's treatment of him, especially Mike's treatment. And not Lucas, not Dustin, not Max, not anyone but Mike. And this needs to be said. His suffering in season 3 and season 4 are especially circled around Mike. Especially season 4. And this is really explicitly going to be what he is gonna suffer about again in season 5. Obviously, his love for Mike, his lie because of Mike, and him being gay in general is gonna be used against him by Vecna. I saw a lot of people say that it was not going to be the case because Vecna liked him being different. Vecna wants him weak. He wants him weak to be able to control Will and to be able to see things at the place of Will and to be able to see where people are and to sense things in the real world without him being in the real world. So let's not forget about that Will is a tool for Vecna. And he is gonna make him suffer until he's not. How is he gonna break off Vecna if something doesn't make him happy? What is he gonna use to make him get out? If it's not an immense proof of love. Narratively talking, they used a confession in season 4 to show that maybe they could save the world and kill Vecna. But they didn't manage to because the love was not there. That's why Finn says, if he said I love you before, they could have saved the world. Because he didn't say I loved you. Mike didn't say I love you to Elle. She didn't have confidence, and she was not motivated by his love confession. She was not motivated, and because of that, they didn't manage to save the world. And usually, if it was a confession that actually worked, this would have been at the ending of the show with a big climax, with this immense scene of a confession of love, and everything was going to blow out, and it would have worked. It would have been successful. But instead, they decided to put that in season 4 and to make it unsuccessful. That's why, narratively talking, I think that this is what they're gonna use again in season 5 for Will to be able to break him out of Vecna. This is love that broke him out of it, because he had a family and people made him come back. And this time, Vecna is stronger than anything else. So Will need something as strong as Vecna to make him come back to them. And what is it else than the love he thought he was never going to have? This is my opinion. Obviously, that doesn't mean it's going to happen. But whatever. No matter what happens and how it happens, it wouldn't make sense for Will to end up with a sad ending, rejected and on the side, because this is what he was during the show. And the goal of an ending is to be different from the show. I have to remind people, because apparently it's not a lot of people who understand that. His happy ending is coming. He's the main character who has suffered a lot, and he's very dear to the Duffers. But the Duffers have explicitly said and talked about not being satisfied about many ending. One of their favorite show, which is their favorite show by the way, is Dawson Creek. They use Dawson Creek many times to make the same scene in the show for Will and Mike. Like the same places, for example, or they use this show, they love this show, and it wouldn't surprise me that them paralleling Will and Mike is not a coincidence. Narratively, Will and Mike complement each other. This is not a reach. They complement each other. They're the first one in the parties. They know each other since they were 5, and they know each other very well. They don't need words to talk. I say it. No, you don't. I didn't say it. You didn't have to. This is a comparison of Elle, Mike, and Will and Mike. But these constant shots of Will and Mike looking at each other and understanding the situation without saying a word, all of those things are not out of the blues. This is scripted that he looks at Will and Will looks at Mike. All of those things are scripted. The Vine scene was carefully scripted and done for 12 hours. I mean, that you don't like the dynamic and you don't think that Mike and Will would make a good couple, that's a different subject. But believing that there's no chance of it happening after all of this complementary is insane. Because the complementary of the narrative is not only when they look at each other and understand each other, it's not only about them knowing each other for so long, it's not only about Will being in love with Mike so much that he's sacrificing himself, but it's also about their clothes. Their clothes are complementary. When you look at them, they wear similar clothing, etc. And when they don't understand each other, often they wear opposite clothing. That's something I kind of noticed. But yeah, they complement each other's clothes, and that is a very specific detail. I said I wouldn't go into that, but the narrative made them complementary. And for Mike, and because I talk a lot about Will because we have the most evidence for Will, but Mike not being able to say I love you is already a big clue. I mean, okay, but even that, when Mike is hearing Will talk about love, which he thinks it comes from hell, but is directly found and in love and in sync with what Will is saying. But Will is not talking about hell, he's talking about himself. Meaning that Mike saw a complementary love from Elle's perspective, but in reality it's Will. He is in love with Will's love and not with Elle's love. And it's insane because this is not me inventing. This is not me just saying things out of the blue. This is what is happening in the fan scene. And that's because Will is using the exact words that Mike wants to hear. Just narratively talking, making Will completely in love with Mike. Like, not making him have a boyfriend from California like Dustin had with Susie, or things like those. It's done on purpose. So what would be the purpose in making Will fall in love completely with Mike if it was for him to rejecting at the end, when we know that Will is gonna be the one who suffers from Vecna? Elle is going to be the one fighting against Vecna, but will be the target of Vecna, and he's the one who's gonna need to be saved. So what's the point into leaving everything hanging around for season 5 and making Will suffer this much, thinking that he's a mistake because of his love for Mike, if it was not for him to have an happy ending? Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Will feels like a mistake because of his love for Mike, but doesn't feel like a mistake because of Mike. And this little piece of information shows that in season 5, Mike is probably the only one who can save Will from Vecna. Obviously, when I'm talking about things that I believe, mixing with canon events. Like, I'm not using any gates, for example. I'm not talking about the Later Gate, the Lovelake Gate, or any gates, because I don't believe in most of them. I'm sorry. But I'm only talking about very, very, very obvious canon events, and I think it's very telling that many people don't recognize it as what it is. Even when the actors and the duffers talk explicitly about the things exactly like we do, they just don't want to believe it. And that's the end of the video. If you want me to make a video explicitly about Byler and why they're canon and etc., I would make it if you asked, if you wanted me to make it, only about Byler and why I think it's canon, more in depth and in more details than what I just said about the narrative and how the show is written. I will, if you want me to do it, I will. This was an Edisconfidential. My channel is a gaming channel, so I'm sorry, not all my videos are like that, but you can check out my channel. I do many things. I'm multi-gaming, so I take any request. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, night, and whatever. Goodbye!